everybody, and welcome to episode 39 of the Liberator podcast. This is going to be a very special one. We've got a very special guest and our first international guest, which is pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. And so it might also be a good time to kind of promote an international-ish kind of T-shirt that we're going to be putting out pretty soon here.
That's right. That's right. We have on our special international Free the States edition. We are going to be featuring, here we go, William Wilberforce, not an American, but one of the most famous advocates of immediate abolition, abolition of the slave trade in Britain, which is appropriate because we're talking to somebody on the other side of the pond. Super excited about this. We got Mark Lambe, not in the house, but with us through modern technology. What's up, brother?
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to join you and be able to see the studio, if not be in the studio. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, we'll get you here sometime.
One day. Yeah.
I love it. I walked in and I looked at, we had it all set up and you're on the Zoom and I'm like, wow, he's wearing an Abolition Day T-shirt in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Man, some people must be thinking we're doing really good.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of them going around. We got 30 of them sent over. We've got rid of most of them now already. So there's a lot of people walking about with the Abolition Day message.
Great. Well, we will send you plenty of these Wilberforce shirts whenever we get them done and printed. And you guys can help us bust the Wilberforce myth in your neck of the woods.
Yep. So you guys, if you want to enter the drawing to win this Wilberforce original drawing that's going to be the T-shirt, go to freethestates.org/donate, become a donor, get your name in the bucket here, and we will be giving this away at the end of the month. So get your name in the bucket.
And as a member, you'll be able to order it for a discount. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to give back to people, and we're trying to get people to help us spread the word about abolitionism and sort of network and unify people together in the cause of justice.
Yep. So with that, let's get into it here. So Mark, you are part of an organization called the Center for Bioethical Reform, Northern Ireland. Now, a lot of people stateside will see Center for Bioethical Reform, and that doesn't exactly make them think abolition. So talk about your organization and yourself and your kind of journey for you and your compatriots to abolitionism.
Yeah, it's quite funny. We watch your episodes and we hear you talk about Greg Cunningham all the time, and we are aware that there was a video put out last week by somebody associated with the Canadian Centre for Bioethical Reform.
That's right,
and we would like to distance ourselves from those comments completely. First off, but we as an organisation are fairly new. We started kind of post change in the law in Northern Ireland. So law in Northern Ireland changed late in 2019, and the government had until the end of March to introduce abortion regulations. At that point, evangelical Christians didn't really have a strong voice in the public arena. We had a couple of kind of pro-lifey kind of groups doing a little bit. We trusted some of our politicians to make a stand against abortion, and all of that failed. And there was a sense of kind of frustration among evangelical people who wanted to make their voice heard. They wanted to get out and be clear where they stood in this issue, and they needed a platform to stand on. So CBR in the UK, they go out into the public square, they bring out the images in the public square. And when I watched a lot of their stuff, they talked about people like Clarkson. They sell the idea of the use of images really, really well. And they're very active in the public square. So a couple of guys from here went over, happened to just meet each other at the Clarkson Academy, which was run by CBR in the UK, and decided they would like to do something similar here in Northern Ireland. They set up CBRNI in kind of February time of 2020, and I came on board kind of April of 2020 or so. But what was funny is I'm ashamed to tell you some of that stuff. Like, we were doing our initial kind of training sessions. We had people like Scott Klusendorf on to talk about kind of talking to people in the public square. But in the back of my head, as I'm listening to him, I'm going, well, this is murder. We should be calling it murder. We should be saying it is sin. We should be bringing the gospel into this kind of stuff. And we started to have these conversations between us. And what we found out is a lot of us had kind of been drawn into this through watching Jeff at Apologia. And we'd been to a couple of events. We didn't realize it. We'd been to a couple of events he was speaking at. We had been watching, I kind of through watching Jeff, then saw a lot of the AHA stuff. Then found you guys, and we found that we were all drawn to the same kind of idea of abolition. So it was very clear off the bat that we wanted our organization here in Northern Ireland to be an abolitionist organization. Now, the other side of that is then we started to go out in the public square, and CBR in the UK gave us 2 kind of 10-foot by 10-foot images to bring with us. One is a living 10-week fetus. One is an aborted 10-week fetus. And we brought those into public square. We started to talk to people about human development, embryology, showed them the pictures and said, it's clearly a child. They said, yeah, I suppose it is. But that doesn't change my mind. So for us, we realized within one day of being out in the public square, this is not a science issue. It's a sin issue. It's not an issue of the head. It's in the heart. So from that day on, we have gone out in the public square, but we bring people to preach the gospel. We have people preaching in towns all across Northern Ireland as we do our outreaches now. And what is the most amazing thing is in the early days when we went out without people preaching the gospel, the guys holding the signs got dogs abuse. They got loads of abuse. It's now the preachers who take the abuse. The guys holding the signs get nothing. Have a great day. They have a nice day. And then in the sun, it's the preachers who take the abuse. So this is pure, unadulterated evil that we are dealing with in our land. And it's something that has seeped in. But, I was showing the guys before we started, I've got my Abolition Day t-shirt on here. In a drawer upstairs, I have another t-shirt which I don't wear anymore, but I keep it as a memento of a former life. And it says,
abortion stops a beating heart.
Stops a beating. And, for me, it's a sign that what we're conscious of is that the pro-life movement is in our country. The pro-life movement is poisoning Christian people into believing secular, worldly, ungodly wisdom. And I was there too. I was there with them. And through the likes of your work and through the likes of Jeff, I've had my eyes opened, and we want to reach out to people and open their eyes.
That's awesome.
What's happening.
Now, I will say there's nothing wrong with the label Center for Bioethical Reform. And I'm glad that you sort of say, well, we're called that, but we're not really connected to different groups, because some people will see that and be like, whoa, Free the States is slipping. They've got some kind of secular humanist quote a Bible verse here and there, but basically think like the world pro-lifer on the program. But just to see how quickly different people have come together, just like it's a testament to the fact that the Holy Spirit is working and doing something. And among people who do follow Christ and do believe in his word, when that is an authority, there is sort of like an immediate recognition of what's true. And I think that's really cool. Whenever I've heard about so many abolitionists in Northern Ireland, I was just like, wow, there must be some Bible believers there got a hold of the material. That's usually all it takes.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. It's not rocket science. The idea behind abolition just makes sense whenever you read it. And one of the nice things for us, CBR in the UK, in early discussions we had with them, they were like, yeah, we're all Christians, but we need non-Christians to kind of help us in this fight. Whereas we're kind of going all out abolition. The gospel is the key to ending this issue. And now in the UK, CBR in the UK have started a new organization called Students for Abolition. They're using abolish and the abolition kind of language, which kind of goes with a Clarkson thing. But one of the things that struck me is who is their Wilberforce. They've never had a Wilberforce that brings things politically. But for us, a key aspect of what we do is influencing others. So we want to influence them in CBR in the UK. We want to witness to them. We want to witness to the people around us. And as you said, it is key just getting the information into the hands of people.
Yeah.
And see it. And I think when Christian people see the idea behind abolition and see the reasoning, it makes sense, and they get on board with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a relatively younger organization, but it's just good to see that organizations that started as just typical run-of-the-mill type pro-life organizations can make that switch, and it's a really good testament to them. And I'm sure the UK CBR is going to be looking at you guys as that example as well, and hopefully others will listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And when you adopt this kind of position, for us, we all have jobs, we have families. Before the podcast tonight, I was trying to get 4 kids into bed because my wife's at work. I didn't plan this very well. We have busy lives, but God blesses every single thing that we do. And we get back multiple times what we put into this. So when you adopt a biblical stance, when you adopt, when you follow God's commands, He will bless that work, and He will give you back in abundance what you put in. So for us, we are making, for an organization just over a year old, we are making huge strides, and that's nothing to do with us, but everything to do with God.
Yeah. And I think just the truth and the potency of the argument is there. So really, for the pro-lifers who oppose abolition, their general tactic hasn't been to sort of restate our arguments and argue against them or come up with a scriptural case against treating abortion as murder or something like that. They've decided, well, we'll just kind of slander them a bit. We'll say that they're really bad or really dumb or really mean or whatever it is, so that people don't take the time to actually look into the material. And they've been doing that and working very hard for the past decade just to keep abolition off the table. But it's kind of on the table enough. And I'm sure they're getting a little bit frustrated, but it seems like people who don't have a dog in the fight, they're not invested in building pro-life organizations or pro-life kingdoms. They have other jobs, and they're just trying to be faithful to love their neighbors and love God, are just saying, okay, yeah, you've told me a million times how bad these people are. But what's the biblical argument? And I'm very, sometimes I get messages, people are like, man, do you ever get disheartened how many people seem to hate your guts and want you dead on the internet? And I'm like, well, I think it's really interesting how ineffective it has been. Like, in the end, they're not winning this argument. And the fact that you guys pop up in 2019, 2020, and you're abolitionist and you're already drawing that line, it's like, okay, it's gone global, this distinction. And of course it would, because we believe it's a work of the church. And yes, there are local churches, but there's the people of God, there's the bride of Christ all over the world. And so really, we can say we're unified in abolitionism, but we're unified in Christ, and we're unified in believing in the Word of God. So it makes this very easy.
And it's, for us watching you guys, there's a lot of parallels kind of politically in how your political system runs and how our political system runs. But at the very heart of it is the fact that we are fallen human beings who are driven by the same sinful desires. So the evil that we face here in Northern Ireland is bound to be the same as the evil that you face in the USA. And the solution to that is the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's always been the gospel of Jesus Christ. So, so that's why, we could say, the political strategies match up and what we're trying to do politically matches. But it's the idea of taking the gospel to the heart of the fight against evil is central to what we do, central to what you guys do. And that's central to the fact that we're human beings who live in a fallen world.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good.
That's amazing.
So talk to the listeners a little bit about kind of how abortion got forced onto Northern Ireland, and then talk about what you guys are doing about it.
Because I think especially with Northern Ireland, it seemed like the Irish the country of Ireland, that was very public and everyone sort of heard about it. But Northern Ireland, it kind of happened quietly. Like I didn't hear a whole lot of buzz about it at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we need background because I think our particular viewers might not know up until a certain point that abortion was still a criminal act, like a life in prison act, in a Western country. I think everyone just kind of assumes that all Western countries have gone completely secular, but you guys up until very recently were, maybe not completely perfectly, but basically
holding the line,
actually treating abortion as a criminal act. So yeah, if you can do it pretty quickly, just how did it go from that to what we are looking at now?
So if do it pretty quickly, we'll go all the way back to 1998 to the Good Friday Agreement. It was a peace accord that was supposed to bring peace and a devolved Northern Ireland government that would handle our own issues. Now, at that stage, a lot of the parties were all pro-life, so they negotiated that abortion would be a devolved issue, and that the people of Northern Ireland would be able to decide.
Yeah, and so devolve there is kind of like that. Even though you have like the UK over, like the different nations, like states, have the right to govern this issue, and that's how it was previously. And under that agreement, criminal. We don't use the word devolved here in the States.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to your state system, where the state can decide certain laws, but then the federal government will decide the bigger laws that apply to everybody. So so the UK government can set taxation rates and stuff like that, whereas there are certain issues like health and education and abortion that is devolved to Northern Ireland and for the government of Northern Ireland to decide the best way forward. So the change to the law was building over a course of a number of years. In 2016, there was a motion brought to the Northern Ireland Assembly to try and introduce abortion on the grounds of rape, incest, and fatal abnormality to the child. And that was defeated in the Assembly. It was voted down. We didn't want to change to our laws. But in 2017, our government collapsed. There was we have a thing called mandatory coalition because we live in a divided community. Both sides of the community have to have an equal say in the way our country is run. And Sinn Féin, who are on the Republican side of things, pulled out of the Assembly in a dispute about boilers, strangely enough. And we went for 3 years without a government here in Northern Ireland. And it was just kind of civil servants were running the government. Now, 2018, you had the referendum in the South. And there was a lot of coverage of that in the Republic of Ireland. They had a referendum. They voted kind of 2-1 to legalise abortion, and they introduced an abortion regime down in the south. And then that increased the pressure on Northern Ireland. Ireland is split up into 36 counties. We have 6 of them here in Northern Ireland. So there was increasing pressure on Northern Ireland to introduce abortion. So while the government was down, a bunch of pro-abortion MPs over at Westminster decided that now was their chance to introduce legislation there.
And Westminster is the Parliament of the whole United Kingdom.
Yep.
Yeah, Parliament of the whole United Kingdom. So every MP, every politician, they're called MPs over in Westminster, every MP who was against, or who was from Northern Ireland, voted against the decriminalisation of abortion. And there was so it passed at Parliament. It passed massively at Parliament. And on the 21st of October 2019, abortion was completely decriminalised.
Yeah.
Now, when we talked about it being criminalised before that, in actual fact, we were just talking about this before. A child under UK law, a child in the womb has no rights up until 24 weeks. Now, the law that covered it here was actually a law that made it illegal to procure a miscarriage. So it didn't actually call it murder. It was a law against procuring a miscarriage. And we had a situation where, even leading up to the law change, there was a student in Belfast who was around about 14 weeks pregnant, very blasé, spoke to her housemates about ordering abortion pills online, ordered pills online, killed her child, and her friends phoned the police because there was a dead baby boy in their bin. And she received the sentence of 3 months, suspended for 2 years. So that means that she was just let go and told, well, as long as you don't do anything bad for the next 2 years, you'll not have to go to jail. So yes, we had criminalization, but it was never actually applied in the way that it should be applied in a case of murder. And in fact, one of the big problems with that is when it came to decriminalization, the pro-life politicians said, well, yeah, but we don't actually criminalize anybody. Nobody's gone to jail. That is a case, that's an argument for decriminalization. What we should have been saying is we repent and we are going to treat this like murder because we haven't been and we should be. But we tried to argue on the other side of it, and it was just a snowball to decriminalization. So we've had abortion here for the last kind of 12 months. They started abortions on the 9th of April 2020. And in one year, just over a year, they've managed to kill around about 1,800 children in 1 year, which is absolutely horrific in our country. So we're trying to hold back the tide. We're trying to fight back against this. So some of the ways that we do that is, first of all, we engage with the church. So we engage with, when we talk about the church, we're primarily talking about the people in the pews, because sadly, the churches don't want to know. In Northern Ireland's known as a place where there's a church on every street corner. And we identified 65 churches within half a mile of abortion clinics. 65 churches. And this is 5 abortion clinics, 65 churches. We sent a letter to them saying, we want to start a ministry at these clinics. Will you join us? And we didn't get a single response. And church leaders and the big denominations do not want to know. There's one clinic where it had a church across the road and a church next door to the clinic. And the response of those 2 churches and other churches in the area was to write a letter to the local press saying, we disagree with this, instead of actually doing their job. So we reach out to we do our public outreach. So we go out into town centres all across Northern Ireland. We reach out with the gospel. We share the gospel. We also do clinic work as well with a couple of other groups. And then the final thing we do is we're heavily involved in the political side, and trying to sell the message of abolition to our politicians.
Which I just want to say, it refutes this common notion that abolitionists aren't trying to save as many babies as they can, while they're also calling for total and immediate abolition and criminalization. It's like the people. It's so much is exactly the same. Your situation and our situation. Here in like Oklahoma, you do have a number of churches waking up. So praise God for that. But really, when abolition comes on the scene, it's the same sort of thing. You find the child sacrifice centers are surrounded by churches, and it's almost the churches that are either the closest to the abortion mills or the most powerful and able to do something about them are the ones least interested in getting involved. So, I mean, we've struggled through the same thing, and it can be kind of frustrating. But you just got to press on and keep on preaching and reaching those people in the pews every bit as much as you're trying to reach lost people.
We kind of realized very quickly we were going to the top of churches. We were going to the guys who were in the positions of power within the church, and they were not wanting to know. And we realized very quickly, if we want to start a fire, the place to start it is at the bottom. So we just started hitting the people in the pews. And we got to a point now where we're looking to do a booklet very similar to the one that you guys produce, we have an aim to get it into the hands of every Christian person in Northern Ireland. So we want hundreds of thousands of copies.
That's awesome.
And we're not averse to going to churches and hand them out outside the churches.
That
that
has been something in America that has caused,
still causes.
It's still like people will use the idea that there are Christians in parking lots handing out pieces of paper filled with scripture as a justification for their inaction, and straight up accuse the abolitionist of violating their safe space. Yeah.
Hating local churches and
If you go to a church to try to get them involved in fighting a Holocaust going on down the street from where they praise God, they will treat you exactly like Jesus said the Pharisees would treat you. But I like it that, like you just said, I don't really have a problem with Christians handing out pamphlets to other Christians in parking lots. It just, more and more people are going, yeah, why was that ever controversial? Especially when we're talking about image bearers being murdered.
I think what you said there, 65 churches to every one abortion clinic, and none of them giving any kind of response. That's where that kind of behavior comes from, going out and talking to Christians, going into churches. That's where it comes from. No one responded. And they need to respond. It's their duty as the church to stand up and oppose child sacrifice. That's what Christ has commanded them to do.
Yeah, and it's not hateful. Yeah. It's so weird. We have this culture of safe spaces, and you're attacking me, and all this kind of stuff, and everyone thinks that that's like a leftist. It's like that Democrats do that, but the whole safe space thing was like pioneered by churches trying to justify their non-involvement. So they've got two things. It's like they don't want to involve themselves with the abolitionist, and they will involve themselves with the prolifers. So are the churches there kind of doing something similar where they're like, listen, you're telling us about this, but we already give to this pro-life organization, or we already do this pro-life deal, get off our back? Do they come up with like clever justifications?
Yeah, so I'll use one church as an example, and this may get me into trouble. But so the biggest church in Northern Ireland is the Presbyterian Church. It has well over 200,000 members across Northern Ireland. Now they have a public morals committee, on morals, who deal with these big ticket items of morality within the public square. Now, part of the problem with that is the ordinary kind of minister in the pulpit, he kind of thinks, well, they're dealing with that. I can just get on with my job of just being a pastor to these people sitting in front of me, without realizing that actually abortion affects his flock and the people who are sitting in front of him, and he needs to address it, because if he doesn't address it, pro-aborts will talk to them about it, and especially their young people, and will change their mind for him. So there's this kind of apathy of, well, that's dealt with by very senior people within the church.
Yeah, it's always someone else's problem. No one ever takes.
It's always something. Yeah.
Takes responsibility.
Then you have long established links between the hierarchy of the church and other organizations. So a kind of new bunch of guys comes along and says, well, we think doctrinally your position on abortion is wrong. And they're like, get out of here. Who are you? Stop being mean. We've heard one of the funniest stories I've heard over the last year is a church, a Presbyterian church. Well, I'll not say the town because it'll be obvious which one it is. But the minister sent out a message to everybody in the church saying, beware of this group called CUR. They're really nasty. They're really mean. They're horrible. And there were two women in the church who are the most sweetest women you could ever meet, who are associated and come out on the streets with us. And he's like telling them, these people are horrible, not realizing that people in his church are involved with us. So, so we face a lot of ad hominem attacks. We get straw man in the churches. And we found it really difficult to break into the churches in terms of the existing links that they have with these organizations who up until now, frankly, have done a pretty awful job.
Yeah.
And they keep going back and back and back to these guys. You know, from our perspective, some of these groups, if they would stop talking, it would actually help, because every time they open their mouths, things get worse.
Yeah.
They get progressively worse. You know, so we are working on people in the pews, because we feel this movement has to start from the bottom, and you know, it's going to have to start from the bottom before the guys at the top take notice and get in that.
So you guys are definitely hitting some walls, definitely with the church, with a lot of churches. But I know that you guys had a petition that you were circulating to oppose the just recently passed in April new kind of new UK imposition on you guys. You guys are opposing that, and you got churches to support that effort. So just talk about, just talk about those political efforts. This might be a good transition to kind of the political side of things. Talk about that petition you guys were circulating, your lawsuit, possible abolition bill, all that stuff.
Yeah, so we back in March, or well, if we go back to March last year, the UK government imposed abortion regulations on us. The abortion regulations were, they allow for abortion up to 12 weeks for any reason whatsoever, up to 24 weeks on the grounds of mental health, which is basically a catch-all. Like, you know,
anything.
In the UK, that's you justify everything.
Yeah.
And then up to birth for disabilities. One problem they had is they hadn't factored into those regulations commissioning of services. So who was going to put all the training in place? Who was going to get the facilities and get the staff and stuff? And the health minister here said, "Not me. I'm not doing it."
Yeah.
And nobody in the government would agree over here to do it. They don't want to be left holding the dead child, as it is. The UK government kind of gave them a year, and then they said, well, if you won't do it, we're going to produce new laws that will allow us to directly step in and direct your assembly and direct your departments. And that, in effect, kills the whole concept of devolution, the whole concept. You know, it's as if the federal government came in to a state level and said, well, you guys aren't doing stuff that you're doing stuff that we don't like, so we're going to create new laws that give us powers to bypass you. So we created a petition that we started circulating to the ministers, and what we ended up with 250 ministers signing this petition, calling for pro-life politicians in Stormont to walk out if the Secretary of State was to use his new powers and bypass devolution and kill devolution, in effect. Now, again, that petition, it got a lot of support from 250 guys was amazing. But in the process of running it, we had around 30 withdraw their names from the petition.
Yeah, because they sign it.
Yeah, they
sign it agreeing with it, and then someone comes along and says, "Oh, you're associating with really bad people."
Yeah,
and
they were,
fear of man, desire to be praised by others. Yeah,
so put under pressure by the church hierarchy, and out of fear of man, they withdrew their names. But we ran it as a double-page spread in kind of a big conservative newspaper over here. Got a lot of attention, it's rattled a few cages. So we then started to look legally, and you know, this is one of the things for us is anytime we've needed anything, God has just provided it. It just falls on our plate. It's incredible how God provides. So at one of our meetings, we were kind of doing an update on new regulations, and we had a barrister there, so like a top lawyer was there, and she said, "Listen, this doesn't sound right to me. I think there's a legal case here." So we started into looking into taking a legal case against the UK government in order to block these regulations and ultimately take back control of our laws from Westminster, so that we can then start to bring bills of abolition to our own assembly in Northern Ireland. Now, we, to take this legal case, you're talking £200,000. It's a huge thing, and we entered into this. We're a new organisation. We have no money. We put a lot of our own money into this. We're blessed with how God provides us with what we need. So we reached out to another organisation called SPUC, and we asked them to partner with us in the case. We showed them what we wanted to do with the case, and they very quickly came on board. And not only did they come on board, they said, we'll pay for the whole thing. Wow. So they were going to take on the £200,000 bill.
Right, because this is a very significant pro-life organization over in the UK and in Europe.
Yeah, so UK and Europe, very significant. They have an office in Belfast. I know the guy from the office in Belfast, Philip. Yep. He is an abolitionist.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. I've talked to him a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so really, really great guy. And it was through him that we organized this. And we got on board as our kind of attorney, or QC, it's called over here. Mm-hmm. We got on board the former Attorney General of Northern Ireland, the guy who's the top constitutional lawyer in Northern Ireland, decided that he wanted to represent us.
That's a big deal.
Is incredible.
Yeah,
it's a huge deal. So things were going along nicely, and then John Larkin is named the QC. He dropped in. I think that it'd be good if we brought disability-based abortion into this case, and we started to argue against this aspect of the abortion regulations. And we're like, doesn't really match up to the case. And we're an abolitionist organization. We cannot argue that any particular abortion is wrong, because it's all wrong. It's all murder. And that's the ticket we stand on. Now, SPUC started kind of wavering, I think it'd be good if we brought this in. And it got to a point last week where SPUC were kind of saying, we think this should be in the case. And we're saying shouldn't be in the case. Mm-hmm. And it got to a point today where we have basically taken a principled stand and a stand in faith, and have said to SPUC, well, listen, we're going to have to part ways, and we're going to have to trust God to take this on ourselves. So it's a huge call, because we're basically on our principles taking a stand and saying, turning down £200,000. Yeah. To take this stand for God. So if any of you guys in the States have £200,000 sitting about, just email me, mark@org. And you need to sell a couple of pictures, Russell, get the pen out.
Oh, just a couple, yeah. We've taken a stand. We've basically said thanks, but no thanks. This is a line that we cannot and will not cross. That's amazing.
It's all that kind of temptation. It's the devil is constantly chipping away at what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But we have to take a stand on this issue. And it's, one of the great things is we by taking this stand get to witness to SPUC. We get to witness to John Larkin, the QC, he's saying, but surely if you've got an avenue to chip away at a part of the regulations, you should go for it. And part of the problem is he and our politicians, they view abortion as kind of a massive rock that you can just chip away at, and eventually it'll go away to nothing. Mm-hmm. Whereas we use the kind of analogy that you use of the tree. Mm-hmm. And really what he's doing is trimming a leaf off the very, very tip. It's it's nothing really.
Yeah, sometimes they're actually just hacking at a bush near the tree, it seems.
Yeah. So we today we've said, listen, we're going to have to part ways. We're going to go on in faith and trust God with this. It's a huge call.
Super rare.
It's such a silly legal thing too, because it's like you've got a lawsuit to actually take back the power as Northern Ireland to legislate on this issue. That's the whole point of the lawsuit. So to bring in this thing where it's like, well, we're just going to make this about the discrimination against maybe 1% of the children who are aborted, it's gutting the entire lawsuit, right? But you had this good thing going, and then the big kind of international pro-life group comes in and kind of inserts this incrementalism that undercuts the entire thing. and that's setting you guys back significantly. It's so awful to see this happening. We see it here. Just to hear that is just it's so awful.
It would be nothing for some of these organizations here in America, at least, to cut a check for £200,000. It'd be easy for them to do it. That's almost the salary of the average pro-life leader here. Just the annual salary. So it would be very easy for them to do that. But when they actually do get involved, they end up messing up the very thing that you're trying to do.
They have a commitment to compromise as the way to fight evils, and then they call it prudence, and they say they're being prudent and you're being principled. They'll call absolutist, or you're doing it because you're trying to look holier than thou, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's just it's worth pointing out very blatantly that just like here in the States, it is pro-life organization leaders, the big funded, able to do something about abortion people, that here, in the final hour for this sort of thing, all of a sudden show up. It's like, it reminds me of the movie Braveheart, where William Wallace is going out to battle and he's fighting, and he tracks down the guy and knocks him off the horse and it's Robert the Bruce. And he's like, he finds out that the very person that was supposed to be on his side is actually trying to kill him. And we say that all the time in America. And people, I think, always think that we are making it up or we're being unfair or uncharitable. But it's like, no, this is actually true. This holds so true to the pro-life movement as a whole. I mean, yes, you can find this person or that person or this group or that group that aren't like that. But when you're talking about the people who have the power, the money, the ability to do something about it, it is them that are sort of the bulwark for, keeping abortion legal. And it's sad. I hate, always saying, "Hey, look, we're right."
Yeah.
I wish we were wrong, but we see that we're not.
Yeah, and so we'll come back at the end of the show as well and talk about how people can connect with CBR and I. But just before we move on to the next topic, how can people contribute if they want to contribute to this lawsuit that you guys are bringing against the Secretary of State in Westminster?
Yeah, we haven't really thought about that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like literally today that we decided to let the horse go. So if they come on our Facebook page and just try to connect through us with that way, and this is, you're talking about multi-million-pound organizations. There are a lot of the organizations active in Northern Ireland from the UK have millions and millions of pounds of donations. We are, we live based on what we need, and we make a need known, and God provides. So we have no kind of funding stream. We have no kind of donation system. We literally survive on what we need. So this is a big need, and it is something that we're going to have to look into. Reach out to some other Christian organizations as well. But there's an incredible level of peace in what we're doing, because we know, based on what we've seen over this last year, that when we're faithful, God provides, and we know He will continue to provide. So, and it's an opportunity for us to witness to the people around us, and show that we have to be principled on this issue.
Yeah, that's good. And I can't even get my head around it. It's like you've got this strong legal case. You've got the former attorney general for the whole country saying, "Yeah, this is a great legal case. We can win this." And then in comes this pro-life organization saying, "No, don't go for the whole thing. Just go for 1% of abortions instead of the whole thing." It's so crazy. Like, we're not going to back this unless you're only going for 0.1% of abortions. It's so insane. Yeah, so insane.
It's evil.
So it's actually, so basically we have brought the constitutional argument to the table, and John Larkin came on board with a constitutional argument. It was actually John Larkin who introduced the idea of disability discrimination into it. So he wants to argue the Constitution, and he wants to argue the disability discrimination. Now, this goes hand in hand with other stuff that's happening in Northern Ireland. So the big pro-life party in the Northern Ireland Assembly are the Democratic Unionist Party. And we have been reaching out. We have 90 MLAs in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a tiny place.
So that's the majority, right?
Yeah, you can drive in Northern Ireland. You can drive from one side of Northern Ireland to the other side in less than 2 hours. It's a tiny place. We have 90 MLAs, 90 politicians in our assembly. Literally from my house, I can see 3 of their houses. So it's really easy. It's really easy to get close to your politicians in Northern Ireland. So we reach out to lots of them. Now in the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party, we've been reaching out to lots of MLAs. We've been telling them about abolition, and they keep saying, that sounds really good. It makes sense. Go and talk to Paul, who is a guy called Paul Given, who's the MLA who kind of takes responsibility for abortion. Now, the problem is Paul Given and a couple of others in the DUP, when abortion looked like it was coming in, the kind of pro-life movement got their claws into him, and a couple of others flew him to the States, big gala banquet dinner, put their arm around him and said, listen, we'll show you how to fight this. Now,
because we're doing such a good job here in the States.
Yeah. For me, longevity in a job is good in certain situations, but not others. If a pilot was to say, I've been flying a plane for 48 years, you'd listen to what he's saying. Whereas if a janitor was trying to deal with a rat infestation for 48 years, you'd probably say, I'll go and listen.
Get a different.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So the pro-life movement came in and said, we'll show you how to fight this. And there's a couple of pro-life groups he's very wedded to. One in England. He went to London to an organization called CARE. And they wrote a bill for him that sought to amend the regulations to ban abortion after 24 weeks for Down syndrome, cleft palate, cleft lip, and so on. Now, people were blithely willing to say, this is amazing, this is so great. And then all of a sudden, we said, this is iniquitous, this is evil, and it gives approval to murder. And it caused a huge storm. I was texting him, and he's going around telling people that we're being really mean and we're nasty. I'm texting him saying, Paul, listen, would you sit down as a brother in Christ with me and let's biblically study this and look into this together and have a conversation?
How mean of you.
Text. Yeah. So the last message I sent him was, we did an update on the bill, and I sent him a message saying, Paul, listen, I know you're trying to do good. I trust that you're trying to do something good here. But one of the things we said in our meeting was that pro-life bills like this one give approval to murder. And I know that's hard to hear. But here's proof. And you had one of the big abortion activists in Northern Ireland saying, is this bill an admission from the DUP that we actually need abortion access in Northern Ireland? I sent him that message, and he blocked me on WhatsApp. He just blocked me. And, there's these organizations, and just today, the policy officer for CARE in Northern Ireland did an interview, and she said in the interview that being pro-life is not about denying women access to medical care. It's about providing them with a different choice that allows them to choose life. Yeah.
Choice.
We're talking about murder here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is their way of dealing with it.
That's astounding.
Yeah, it's despicable.
So we're working against pretty powerful figures who are determined to go down this incrementalist route. They talk about the numbers. We haven't got the numbers. We haven't got and I'm saying, listen, we don't need numbers. We need God. We need to bring the truth about this, but instead, pro-life organizations in Northern Ireland are now talking about termination of pregnancy and using the same language as the abortion side, to the point where you could play a video of them talking about abortion and you wouldn't know which is which.
Yep. Wow. We see the same exact. We cannot make this point enough, because people, I feel like we're always saying this, but they think that we're telling lies about these folks. But it has to be done. And what they call as mean is just simply telling the truth. And whenever you say, hey, I'm sending this guy evidence that the actual abortion advocates are doing exactly what I say they're going to do with your regulation bill. And rather than going, oh, man, you're right, and changing it, it's sort of this protect the organization, protect what I'm doing, block you, not, and then tell everybody how bad you are. And in America, we've been standing up, but it's kind of like after, 40 years of them ruling. So we kind of, are working from behind, but you guys are here at the beginning being uncompromising. So I think that, yes, people don't understand the level of temptation, someone's coming to you and you've got this opportunity, like you could make this a full-time job and you could do all these things and you can get the 200,000 and you could be you could be well loved and liked and all this kind of stuff, or you can be principled and we're all going to talk trash about you constantly. And this is something that's repeating. We're not making this up. This is just how they act.
And the foolishness of the political strategy, I think, is so well on display in the way that you explained it, because they say, well, we don't have the numbers. And so what does that cause them to do? We don't have the numbers, so let's adopt the language of the enemy. And let's not speak about abortion as it actually is, because we don't have the numbers. And that's exactly how you never get the numbers.
Yep.
If you disregard the truth and say we're just going to water everything down to try to appeal to the numbers, you'll never get the numbers. You've got to speak the truth in order to get the numbers, to understand what the truth is. It's such foolishness, but it's what every political expert and their mom says you've got to do, but it's such foolishness. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, one of the things I love about what you guys do is through bringing actual abolition bills, you get to highlight where people actually stand. And this is one of the things that we're keen to do over here. We're keen to bring abolition bills so that we get to see where people actually stand, and then we can replace them with people who are abolitionists. So we're due to have an election here next May. We're determined to have an abolitionist candidate in every constituency in Northern Ireland. Now, they may come from within the DUP. They may come from within another political party. We may have to stand ourselves on an abolitionist ticket, but we're determined that we're going to have one in every constituency. That's and amazing. Try to get abolitionists in the assembly and take the thing over. So we're going to bring the numbers, we're going to bring bills, and we're not going to compromise on it. So things are pretty exciting. The other thing that's happened is the DUP have recently had a change in leadership. The guy who's taken over comes from a very traditional Christian background, so we're looking to get in touch with them, sit down, have a meeting, discuss the case that we're taking, because it is such important political importance in Northern Ireland, but then also introduce abolition and talk about the biblical approach to ending the solution, to a man who is very very faithful and he gets that kind of background. It's exciting times. Then we're determined to do stuff here in Northern Ireland, but also we've been reaching out to MPs who are at Westminster. So this gets a little bit confusing because we've MLAs in our Stormont Assembly, then we've MPs over in Westminster. So we have 10 or so MPs that go over and back and forward between here and London and represent us over there. Now, the guy who's bringing the bill to ban abortions for Down syndrome here is called Paul Given. But there's an MP in the same party who's called Paul Girvan. Very similar names. Everybody gets them mixed up. So we met with Paul Girvan a few weeks ago in one of the guys' back gardens. We sat outside in the back garden. We had a cup of tea and we explained what we do. We explained about abolition. We explained about calling it murder, the importance of people being able to get up and stand up and say this is murder and it should be abolished. And I said, a dream of ours is to bring a bill of abolition to Westminster, to the mother of all parliaments, And he turned around and said, "Oh, well, I'd do that."
That's awesome.
And we just went,
yeah.
What
Yeah.
do we do?
Like, oh man,
do
did we just end up in a future history book? Yeah, we did. There's like, you know, you hear all this, you know, dinner party whenever Clarkson and those guys, you know, met with Wilberforce and said, "Hey, we really need you to bring this bill of abolition," you know, and you know, it ends up being in a movie, all epic and stuff. You know, really, it's Wilberforce Pitt and Grenville sitting under an oak. You know, but you know, it was dramatic. Yeah. But like, I can see it. It's you with the teacup.
Yeah.
Very Brit. I mean, how much more British? I mean, we're in a garden drinking tea, and a member of Parliament's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Now that's where you say, okay, let's talk about counting the cost. And, you know, everyone celebrates Wilberforce today. And, you know, there's all that sort of genteel, honorable, good sir. You've argued very, very well. But what they don't realize is that they would be drawing cartoons of him and slandering him and all sorts of stuff for, you know, a couple of decades. But he just kept on doing it. So hopefully you found a good champion there with him.
The nice thing, you know, one of the things that seems to be behind these kind of ideas of pro-life bills is the idea that we have to win. You know, we're bringing this really rubbish bill because it's one we think we can win.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, and you know, if we bring in the bill of abolition to Westminster, it will be defeated. It will be defeated, and he doesn't care. Yeah, because he knows
the right thing. Yeah, and it may be defeated over and over and over again, and you may have like this history of the first time it was brought, here was the vote. The second time, here was the vote. The second, so you can look at that, and then by the time the Abolition Act for the slave trade, you know, finally flipped the vote around, you know, people can say, oh, look, it happened over 20 years, so that was incrementalism. No, it was delayed by people voting against it for 20 years, and then they finally voted for it.
By incrementalists voting against it for 20 years.
Yeah, incrementalist against it. Well, I called gradualist then, but
right.
But I think that if you got a guy who understands, no, we're never going to get it by not calling for it. So let's call for abolition from the beginning, without compromise, and even if it's being voted down, at least we're not, you know, delaying. We're not the ones delaying it. So I think that's huge. And that you're there within a matter of a year or so as an organization is impressive.
One of the awesome things about it is what I'm just so excited for. If Paul Gervin actually goes through with this, is how it's just going to completely shift the conversation. Like, it's going to make massive waves. Like, if that bill gets introduced, and it's going to change the whole conversation. We're not going to be talking about whether or not to anesthetize children anymore, and like saying we're a humane society. The pro-lifers saying we're a humane society because we make the abortion less painful. It's going to shift the entire conversation, and everyone's going to be debating, is abortion murder or is it not murder? And that's what the debate needs to be in order for us to win. We can't win unless we're having that debate. Yeah. That's the debate that needs to be had, and this is the bill that can create that debate. And so, man, I'm just so excited.
I feel like saving up money right now. I feel like starting a change jar because I kind of want to go to. Too bad we don't have lots of money, but if we could get to Northern Ireland, if we could get to if we can get to London, for him to do that, that would be epic. You know, to see a member of. I mean, just imagine. You know, it's. I don't know what Paul Gervin looks like. We just put him in there. Yeah. So, some future nerd is going to make a T-shirt to this guy if he stands his ground.
No, he's brilliant, you know, and sitting there, we sat and talked for an hour in the back garden, and we talked about, you know, and he made it very clear that he realizes he has to get votes off people, but first and foremost, he is loyal to God, and that he believes that as a politician, his first and foremost duty is to call for justice and righteousness, and this is something he's willing to do.
Yeah. Sounds like the man for the job.
Yeah, we need to be praying for him because I'm sure that he's getting.
You know, Yeah, and it was amazing to be able to sit down. We sat in the garden, we talked for an hour, and then we prayed for a while together in the back garden, which was so humbling to be able to do that. So it's incredible just what God is doing and what He's rising up. He took our petition, he took it over to London, delivered it to 10 Downing Street, to the Prime Minister's house for us. So it's incredible just to see him buy into this and not think about career and image and stuff like that. He's like, just because it's the right thing to do, and I don't care what people say about me.
Sounds like an abolitionist.
That's awesome.
Well, that's a fantastic development. Some people watch the Liberator to learn stuff. I'm on the Liberator podcast to learn stuff. I had no idea about this, so that is super exciting news.
Yeah.
We're working on getting the bill drafted. It needs a proper draftsman to write it up for us, and then we want to make it airtight. There are issues, with regards to UK law and not recognizing life as beginning at conception. So, we need to get in some kind of personhood aspect to it as well. So it's exciting what's going on there. It's exciting what's going on here politically. It's hard work, but it's work that's bearing fruit, and it's work that's bearing far more fruit than it actually should bear. And we're seeing more and more people come along and join the abolitionist cause, which is just incredible.
Yeah, man, we need to get there. We got to get there. I guess if we start rowing right now, we'll be there in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of land to cross first before you start rowing as well. So,
that could be a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be more than a couple of years if we start rowing right now.
Yeah. Okay. So we got to start walking.
Yeah.
No, I mean maybe we'll create some kind of side budget for put some money away from time to time.
Buy Free the States an amphibious car. That way we can just drive there.
Just drive and then go into the water and then come up.
Yeah.
The Apologia guys try to come over. They've been over a couple of times. They try to come over once a year. So basically try and kind of just tag along with them. Yeah. Get them. Next time they come over.
Yeah.
But no, we hope to do an Abolition Day at some stage. We're coming out of kind of protracted periods of lockdown, and there are still a lot of COVID regulations about. So we hope to do an Abolition Day, get thousands of people there, and we have a kind of hit list of who we want to be. I think last check, I think you guys were on the list. Well, a couple of weeks.
Well, we'll try to assert ourselves and make sure we're on that list. But but no. And one of the things I most appreciate is just you drop the A-bomb. You not seem to be scared of it. Over here in America, there's pressure, to keep the line fuzzy. And so you have people that are like, I'm not going to use the A word. I'm going to use something else and all that kind of stuff. But it's so powerful. If you think about it, if there was an MP who put forward an Abolition of Abortion Act, that just calling it that is going to make people understand, this is different than all that other stuff. And so that's the power and importance of words, and that you understand that, and that seems to be, something that other people there understand, that you're drawing the line, I think is going to bear fruit, whereas you're not delaying the work that you're doing by sort of trying to let's just look like everybody else and secretly get in there and then try to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the good thing, but the cost is you're basically being treated like an AHA group from the beginning. It's you don't have the AHA symbol or the same name or anything like that, but the same things they said about abolitionists, they're saying about CBRNI. So we hope to try to combat that with you as much as we can from this area by sharing stuff. I mean, we say, well, we want to come over there, but we can do a lot of good arguing for you. James just put forward an article in the Federalist, which I think you sent it to them and they said, we'll run this pretty much
Yeah.
And I read that and I was like, yeah, this is great because it is going on across the pond, but it's actually forwarding this distinction between abolition and regulation is being seen everywhere. And so people are, picking up that article and reading about it, can see that the debate that we're having here is going to be happening everywhere. So we'll try to do our best to help you from our perspective without going over there. But what are some specific things, I guess, that people can immediately do? You don't have the fundraising thing up. You have websites, you have Facebook pages, you have podcasts, you have different things. Like, give us a kind of a list of all the different things that people need to be doing right now. Say a prayer.
Yeah, so well, first of all, the resources that you guys have given us already are incredible. This podcast is incredible. So what I heard last week, you comment about kind of regular watchers in Northern Ireland. Basically what happens is people come along to us and they say, well, what is abolition? And we say, go and watch the Liberator podcast. So that resource on its own is amazing because it saves us a huge amount of time in
education,
preparing and talking and giving the same message, so we can just direct people to even the kind of the one podcast about what is the difference between pro-life and abolition is gold for us here in Northern Ireland. For us as an organization, we want this to be a movement of the people, and we want this to be a movement of Christians in Northern Ireland. We are very convicted that we here in Northern Ireland can be a beacon of light for the whole world. And we regard it. I know Garrison talked about the idea of state to state abolition and the kind of domino effect. We are of the opinion if we abolish abortion here, that could be a domino effect everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are trying to do it there. We're trying to do it here. I said that James and Sam before, we're viewing this as a race, abolish abortion, and we're going to take it as a measure of faithfulness. So.
Well, it is very weird, but you guys passing an abolition act over there would actually help pass abolition bills here. It's weird because I think politicians, as sort of a species, if you will, they've got like so many more fears than other people, and they need peer pressure or something. Like sometimes you're saying, hey, here's this bill. It's right. It's just. It's biblical. It's constitutional. They go, well, has any other state passed it? That's like at the top of their mind. It's just like, well, other nations are doing this. Be encouraged. And I think that's, we obviously we're free the states. We obviously deal with, American political situation, but even having you on this program for some people, for some pro-lifers, they're going to be not happy with it. Because they're going to see it and it's like, oh, great. This is spread over there too. But for others, it's going to be very encouraging, and so it's a race, but I don't care who wins. And I like the fact that if we can get a little competitive, but I always feel like we're racing Texas.
So we have other things that we do. We have a kind of an online Zoom meeting. We stream it on Facebook every Monday night. At the minute, we're doing our exchange program. So we've got Brett Baggett on at this very moment while I'm on talking to you guys. So we do that every Monday. And then on a Thursday evening, we have a prayer meeting. Prayer is right at the center of what we do. So we do it online. We have a prayer meeting for the work that we do. We do kind of twice a month, we do street outreaches. So we go into town centres with the gospel. Our last one last month, even though we were kind of still within kind of COVID restrictions, we had about 50 people turn up in a town centre for the outreach, which was amazing.
Wow, yeah.
We do clinic work, and we need people to get involved in the clinic work and reach out with the gospel at the clinic. So we're always looking for people to do that. There are many ways that people can get involved. One of the things you'll like this. There's an organization in the UK called Right to Life. Might sound familiar. And one of the things that they do really well is they have a kind of system set up where they've got a pro forma email written for you. You just enter your name, your email address, your postcode, and you hit send, and they'll send the email to your politicians, and then a few weeks later you'll get an email from them asking for a donation. So we know that politicians hate these emails. They ignore them because they clog up their inbox, they take up their time. So one of the things that we've been doing is getting people to phone their politicians, phone them directly, ask for a call back and speak to them. So we need people to do that kind of stuff. We need people to sell that message of abolition constantly. So anybody in Northern Ireland who wants to get involved and do more, there's lots and lots and lots that you can be doing, and lots of ways to get involved. Anybody from a evangelical Christian background who wants to see an end to abortion in Northern Ireland are free to come and stand with us. And it's one of the most pleasing things about this last year for me is that we have people from church denominations who historically have hated each other, and they take a stand together. We've had ministers from the Presbyterian Church, the Free Presbyterian Church, or Breakaway, and the Reformed Presbyterian Church put aside centuries of differences and stand and preach at the same time, because this is so important. So, this is not about denominations. It is about God's people standing up against evil and taking it on with the power of the gospel.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for coming on so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and we're encouraged by you guys and just seeing what's happening in Ireland. It's just bizarre to see an abolitionist organization in Ireland. Wow. It's really encouraging.
Yeah, and just I love that you ended there with the unity. I mean, you've got different people from different theological. I mean, all those groups, they're all Presbyterians. They all believe in the Word of God and they all follow Jesus, but they may have different soteriological views or something that's dividing them in that area. But I mean, just the unity that comes from people serving God together is being put on display in the abolitionist cause across the culture. So we're certainly going to, even though you sound funny, we're going to be.
I don't sound as funny as the accent that you did.
Yeah, I'm not. I've decided that I'm not going to try at all.
Yeah.
So I'll keep all my accents to storybook time with my kids. Because they don't know any better. But no, I mean, we will certainly be watching, monitoring, sharing everything that we can, keeping people up to date, and let us know of anything, files you need, images you need, help. I think we would be very interested in refitting or making the pamphlet that we've put out on abolition, very relevant to your political situation. So we want to be faithful to do that and help in whatever way we can. In light of that, we keep on talking about these pro-life organizations, how funded they are and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that we don't like doing is asking for funding. But obviously, as people watch this show, you're just like, wow, those abolitionists, could use some funds or whatever. So we are thankful for our supporters. I'm sure you're thankful for the people that are keeping your lights on and keeping y'all doing stuff. And people just need to understand that there's something for every different Christian to do in this work, and everyone should be involved to whatever degree they can. So be praying, be thinking, be supporting, we are certainly huge. We're thankful very much for our supporters, and we hope that this program actually gets you some supporters, both financial and going to the clinics with you as well.
Yep. So everyone, make sure if you watched this far, thank you. But right now, go to CBR_NI on Facebook. Make sure you like them. Check them out. It's cbrni.org, right?
Yep.
So cbrni.org to check them out. Check out what they're about.
Yeah.
You'll probably see some similar things on their website as you're seeing on abolitionist sites here. Just because they're doing awesome abolitionist stuff. It's not watered down. It is abolition. So support these guys however you can. Make sure you're staying in touch with what they're doing. And Mark, thanks so much for coming on. That was an awesome show, brother.
Yeah. We praise God for you.
Yeah, thanks for the witness that you guys are to us as well.
Yeah, and so now you can go get on that other Zoom call with Brett.
Yeah.
Say hello.
Yeah.
You also add Brett first.
I will.
You've got it's happening right now. You have a meeting.
Yes, it should be happening right now. So it's probably being streamed on the Facebook page. So I'll hang up here and then I'll watch it back after.
Well, we'll do the same.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Definitely. No, it's great, and the resources you guys have made are incredible. So we're really, really appreciative.
Thank you. Well, we love you guys, and we love what you're doing, and we will keep abreast of everything and keep everyone else in the know. Thanks for watching the Liberator podcast, and like, share, subscribe, and do all that. Push all the buttons.